#MeToo. It is well established that over the centuries men and women have used their positions in society to get what they want. Many will just walk over others to get their desires satisfied. Trana Burke, a social activist and community organizer, began using the phrase Me Too in 2006, on the MySpace social network. Burke said that #MeToo declares sexual violence sufferers are not alone and should not be ashamed. Burke says sexual violence is usually caused by someone the woman knows, so people should be educated from a young age they have the right to say no to sexual contact from any person, even after repeat solicitations from an authority or spouse, and to report predatory behavior. Burke advises men to talk to each other about consent, call out demeaning behavior when they see it and try to listen to victims when they tell their stories. The Me Too movement, or #MeToo movement, with a large variety of local and international alternative names, is a movement against sexual harassment and sexual assault. The movement began to spread virally in October 2017 as a hashtag on social media in an attempt to demonstrate the widespread prevalence of sexual assault and harassment, especially in the workplace. It followed sexual abuse allegations against Harvey Weinstein. Trana Burke, an American social activist and community organizer, began using the phrase Me Too as early as 2006, and the phrase was later popularized by American actress Alyssa-Milano on Twitter in 2017. Milano encouraged victims of sexual harassment to tweet about it and give people a sense of the magnitude of the problem. A number of high-profile posts and responses from American celebrities Gwyneth Paltrow, Ashley Judd, Jennifer Lawrence, and Uma Thurman, among others, soon followed. Once celebrities started to use the hashtag, did things start to happen where allegations against certain men came to the fore? The first big name that was to fall due to the allegations was Harvey Weinstein. Due to the allegations made against Mr. Weinstein, he was arrested and charged with various felony charges. But he was not the only one that felt the effect of the hashtag #MeToo. The phrase Me Too was tweeted by Milano around noon on October 15, 2017, and had been used more than 200,000 times by the end of the day, and tweeted more than 500,000 times by October 16. On Facebook, the hashtag was used by more than 4.7 million people and 12 million posts during the first 24 hours. The platform reported that 45% of users in the United States had a friend who had posted using the term. In addition to Hollywood, Me Too declarations elicited discussion of sexual harassment and abuse in the music industry, sciences, academia, and politics. In January 2019, actress Emma Thompson pulled out of the production lock based on the production company's decision to hire John Lasseter. Thompson wrote a letter in February 2019 to the American production company's guidance, to explain her reasons for leaving LUK. Among others, Thompson stated, "If a man has been touching women inappropriately for decades, why would a woman want to work for him if the only reason he's not touching them inappropriately now is that it says in his contract that he must behave professionally?" Jackie Speier proposed the Member and Employee Training and Oversight on Congress Act, Me Too Congress Act, on November 15, 2017. The full language of the bipartisan bill was revealed by the House on January 18, 2018 as an amendment to the Congressional Accountability Act of 1995. The purpose of the bill is to change how the legislative branch of the U.S. federal government treats sexual harassment complaints. Under the old system, complaints regarding the legislative branch were channeled through the Office of Compliance, which required complete confidentiality through the process and took months of counseling and mediation before a complaint could actually be filed. Any settlement payments were paid using federal taxes, and it was reported that within a decade, $15 million of tax money had been spent settling harassment and discrimination complaints. The bill would ensure future complaints could only take up to 180 days to be filed. The bill would also allow the staffers to transfer to a different department or otherwise work away from the presence of the alleged harasser without losing their jobs if they requested it. The bill would require representatives and senators to pay for their own harassment settlements. The Office of Compliance would no longer be allowed to keep settlements secret, and would be required to publicly publish the settlement amounts and the associated employing offices. For the first time, the same protections would also apply to unpaid workers, including pages, fellows and interns. Something that might come out in some of the criminal hearings is that some of these individuals that made the allegations gave sexual favors for parts in certain movies that netted them millions in income. They wanted to ensure that they got the part and willingly participated. One can almost claim that they prostituted themselves for the roles that made them millions. But the issue is a lot more complicated than that. And it seems that it was not just men that abused their position of power. Here is an allegation of an actress that could not be substantiated or confirmed, as there was never a case opened against this individual, nor would anybody in the industry confirm or deny these allegations. A was a young man fresh out of school looking for a career in the movie and film industry. Fresh out of school and looking forward to the challenges that my chosen career can bring. I was cast for a couple of adverts for television before I had my first chance to be part of an internationally produced production. The production was that of the movie called Serafina. I looked forward to working with an international star like Whoopi Goldberg, as this would be an opportunity to get my feet wet internationally. I was cast for a very small part in the movie and had been looking forward to performing for an international audience, as this might boost my career in many ways. I was scheduled to be on set on a specific date to start with my own part, and decided to visit the set a couple of days before the shoot was supposed to take place in order to get the feel of the set. During my visit to the set, I was introduced to Mrs. Goldberg. She was kind and asked a lot of questions about my background and where I would like to see my future career go. I answered all as best as I could. She invited me back to the set the following day when she was doing one of her scenes, to that I observed one of the masters of the industry at work. During the first day of my visit to the set on her behalf, she invited me to join her at lunch so that she can see how she can assist me and the other youngsters on the set to get our careers off the ground and into the international arena. What I found odd as the lunch was that there were no young ladies at the lunch table, and I just made it off to that she wanted to have a chat with the guys separate from the young ladies. It was a great lunch, and afterwards we all watched her in action in front of the camera. It was an inspiring day indeed. Again, I was invited to the set so that she could work through lines for the following day when I would be making my debut on the big screen. She invited me to her trailer and suggested that we practice our lines out of sight of the rest of the crew to put my nerves at ease. I said I would prefer to do it at the lunch table to get used to the amount of people around me while doing my lines with her, but she insisted. So eventually we started to rehearse our lines in her trailer. This is when it got weird and she started to get touchy-feely with me. As I was already in a relationship at the time with the young lady that later became my life partner, I shrugged off her approaches. I wanted to rehearse and she clearly had other things on her mind. Eventually, when she realized I was not going to give in to her needs, she started to shout at me and scream at me. So I decided to leave, and that would be the end of it. I left the trailer with my dignity intact and with my head held high, as I did not give in to temptation. I got home about 9 that evening and wanting to get a good night's rest in before my big day. The big day arrived and it was time to get to set, as there was a schedule to be kept. As I approached the set to get makeup and prepare for my time to shine, security blocked my way. Apparently I was banned from the set because Mrs. Whoopi Goldberg's claimed that I tried to molest her while practicing our lines the previous day. All my protests fell on deaf ears. Eventually the director came to speak to me and told me what he was told. I objected fiercely, but to no avail, as my position was taken over by another. I eventually returned home without the stage lights falling on me. Totally disappointed with what happened, I decided to go to my casting agent to find out what they have heard. Upon entering their offices, my manager came out to see me. He had an envelope in his hand with my deposit back and asked me very politely to leave the premises. Now I was totally confused at what was going on. I went to another casting agency to give my portfolio to them. Within a couple of days I received a call from the new agency requesting me to come in to see them. Starting to get the spring in my step back, I went to the new agency in anticipation of some work that would help my career. But when I got to their offices, I was handed back my portfolio and told that they are unable to represent me and it would not be worth it to go to any other agency as my name have been placed on a blacklist as distributed to all the agencies around the country. Well, to say the least, my dreams of becoming an internationally acclaimed actor just came crashing down around me. I fell into a deep depression as I tried to pick up the pieces of my dreams. Was it not for the devotion and support from my parents and girlfriend, I do not know what would have happened. Eventually I managed to pick myself up and changed my choice of careers. Come to think of it, because I refused to sleep with somebody, their disappointment cost me a career that could have changed my life forever. But I have at least a clean coincidence as I did not give in to temptation from a celebrity. When the #MeToo movement started I wanted to share my experience with the world, but because it was mostly women using this hashtag, I might be the only man to report my experience. Due to my pride, I decided not to share. This is an extract from one patient's file that recently lost his life in an accident. I share this because it is not only women that are being sexually harassed. Men are proud and will seldom report sexual harassment. Women in power can be just as vindictive as men when they want to reach their own goals. But this report is to show how easy it is to make allegations against another person many years after the fact. It takes a sob story from one individual to row up the whole world, and even if the allegations are not true, the life of the person alleged to have done something in the past could be so harshly damaged that in some cases they lose everything that they have worked for their entire lives. There has been discussion about what possible roles men may have in the #MeToo movement. It has been noted that 1 in 6 men have experienced sexual abuse of some sort during their lives and often feel unable to talk about it. Creator Trana Burke and others have asked men to call out bad behavior when they see it, or just spend time quietly listening. Some men have expressed the desire to keep a greater distance from women since #MeToo went viral because they do not fully understand what actions might be considered inappropriate. For the first few months after #MeToo started trending, many men expressed difficulty in participating in the conversation due to fear of negative consequences, citing examples of men who have been treated negatively after sharing their thoughts about #MeToo. The people that made allegations after so many years are also at fault that this type of behavior carried on for so long after their alleged incident. When something like sexual harassment happens to you as an individual, report it immediately to the relevant authorities, and even if they don't do anything about it, you will have proof that you made an effort to report the incident. It is vital should you or the alleged perpetrator land up in court one day, you will be able to give the relevant details as well as a case number to the prosecutor. It is like rape, when the victim do not report it, there is very little that they can do at a later stage to prove that the victim was actually a victim. So should the charges against some be that of solicitation while the charges against those that participated are that of prostitution? This movement can contain many false claims that can ruin lives without it being tested in a court of law. Should the alleged perpetrator be convicted, should the one that benefited from the alleged crime not also lose the benefits they gain from the alleged crime? What should happen to those that use the hashtag to spread false claims just because they are frustrated for some reason by a man in power that has done absolutely nothing wrong? How many people still need to lose their forms of employment just because some individual made a unsubstantiated claim? In some of the cases that were reported through the #MeToo movement, there was mutual consent that leads to one party get instant gratification while the other party got a great break into an industry that made them millions. It is easy when you have reached fame and fortune to spread information as the fans consume information from their heroes like sponges. It is also easy to make false allegations like this one in the scenario portrayed earlier as if from a victim that is no more. Richard Ackland, a lawyer and award-winning journalist, described the response to defamation cases an asphyxiating vortex of litigation. There has been discussion on whether harsh consequences are warranted for particular examples of alleged misconduct. An especially divisive story broke on Babe.net on January 13, 2018, when an anonymous accuser detailed the events of her date with Aziz Ansari and referred to what transpired as sexual assault. Jill Filipovic wrote for The Guardian that it was only a matter of time before a publication did us the disservice of publishing a sensational story of a badly behaved man who was nonetheless not a sexual assailant. Some actors have admonished proponents of the movement for not distinguishing between different degrees of sexual misconduct. Matt Damon commented on the phenomenon in an interview, and later apologized, saying the clearer signal to men and to younger people is, deny it. Because if you take responsibility for what you did, your life's going to get ruined. Subsequently, Liam Neeson opined that some accused men, including Garrison Keillor and Dustin Hoffman, were being treated unfairly. Trauneberg said in January 2018, "Those of us who do this work know that backlash is inevitable." While describing the backlash as carrying an underlying sentiment of fairness, she defended her movement as not a witch hunt as people try to paint it. She stated that engaging with the cultural critique in #MeToo was more productive than calling for it to end or focusing on accused men who haven't actually touched anybody. Ronan Farrow, who published the Weinstein expose in The New Yorker that helped start the #MeToo resurgence, alongside New York Times reporters Megan Twohey and Jodi Kantor, was asked in late December 2017 whether he thought the movement had gone too far. Farrow called for a careful examination of each story to guard against false accusations but also recalled the alleged sexual abuse his sister Dylan Farrow claims she went through at the hands of his father Woody Allen. He stated that after decades of silence, "My feeling is that this is a net benefit to society and that all of the people, men, and women, pouring forward and saying Me Too deserve this moment. I think you're right to say that we all have to be conscious of the risk of the pendulum swinging too far, but in general this is a very positive step." Alyssa-Milano spoke about how some Democrats have expressed regret over the resignation of Senator Al Franken due to allegations of sexual misconduct. She sympathized with them but stressed the importance of punishing misconduct regardless of whether the perpetrator is viewed as a bad guy overall. She wrote that most abusers are more like Al Franken than Harvey Weinstein. The New York Times has called this discussion the Louis C.K. conundrum, referring to the admission by comedian Louis C.K. that he committed sexual misconduct with 5 women, and the subsequent debate over whether any guilt should be associated with enjoyment of his work. Jennifer Wright of Harper's Bazaar has said that public fears of an overcorrection reflect the difficulty of accepting that likable men can abuse women too. There have been many calls for the #MeToo movement to include sex workers and sex trafficking victims. Although these women experience a higher rate of sexual harassment and assault than any other group of people, they are often seen in society as legitimate targets that deserve such acts against them. Autumn Burris stated that prostitution is like #MeToo on steroids because the sexual harassment and assault described in #MeToo stories are frequent for women in prostitution. Melissa Farley argues that prostitution, even when consensual, can be a form of sexual assault, as it can be for money for food or similar items, thus, at least according to Farley, making prostitution a forced lifestyle relying on coercions for food. Many sex workers disagree with her stance, saying that she stigmatizes prostitution. American journalist Stephen Thrasher noted that, there has been worry that the #MeToo movement could lead to a sex panic. But the real sex panic is not due to feminism run amok, but due to the patriarchal, homophobic, trans-antagonistic, theocratic desire of the U.S. Congress to control sex workers. He points to 2018 Stop Enabling Sex Traffickers Act (SESTA), which many experts say will only put sex workers at further risk by causing them to go underground, does not offer sex workers any help or protections, and as a side effect prevents most people from using online personal ads regardless of their intentions. When information is spread, there is a responsibility from the party that is spreading the information to the audience to ensure that they have the facts correct. It is like fake news, the world reacts heavily on some information even if they don't have all the facts in front of them that might just contradict the reporter's views on specific events that might have taken place. If proven in a court of law, the people that harass others and exploit them for sexual favors should be punished. I cannot stress this greatly enough. Men and women should report any forms of sexual harassment immediately and do not give in no matter what was promised. This #MeToo have affected so many industries that it might soon lead up to a segregation of sexes in the workplace to avoid any such future acts from taking place. But the only person that can decide on any action to be taken is you and nobody else, as you are personally involved. This is my opinion and you need to judge for yourself. Thank you for watching to the end. Like and subscribe and hit that notification button if you want to see my future videos.